Alright, so I've got all those done. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and um, put the material parameters on them. So we would like to have material, the ability to assign a material to them in the project. So what you can do is go around and pick all of the things that you want to be the same material. So if I want this top frame and maybe these two cross bottom frames to be the same material, I can pick the form, and then in the properties dialog box you'll get a material right here, and this little gray square will associate a parameter with that. So if I click on the gray square, click on the new parameter down here, I'll name this tube mat 1, and then for these guys we will do tube mat 2. Click OK. Alright, so now if we kind of spin around that guy, right, it looks like this guy has tube mat 1 on it, maybe, right? So I'm going to go ahead and change that to tube mat 2, so it'll thin up for me. And so now I'll eventually have the ability to put a material on it. I'm going to go ahead and save the file. I haven't done that yet, so I'll save it, and I'll make a new folder here just for this one. New folder, and I'll name this space frame save test. Okay, click set and open it, and I'll name this, I typically name mine like beginning with the number of points they have, 9 point space frame. Okay, and so basically now we have this space frame, and so if I pull this guy down, right, you're going to start to see those bend because they're on splines, right? So depending on the points that we pick, we'll get sort of a bent frame in whatever direction we want. So all that works out fine. So let's go ahead and apply it and see how it works, and then we'll talk about sort of cleaning it up later. Alright, so you can do this in the project. I'm going to do it in a mass family. If you were doing it in a project, you would do architecture component model in place, architecture tab component and model in place, and pick mass. But I'm just going to go to file, new family, or you could go to new conceptual mass, however you want to do it. I'll go to conceptual mass, and you will pick the mass RFT. I have one without the gradient background, so I'm going to use that. And then I'm just going to draw a curved plane. So there's multiple ways to do this. I'm going to go ahead and set my vertical work plane current, and then I'll do a reference spline through points, and I'll just draw a curve, right, and hit escape to stop that, and then I'll pick that and go to create form, and it'll shoot that curve out. And if you pick it, you can adjust the size of it here, so I'll make it maybe 80, right? So we've got a curved form, and then I'm going to pick that form and I'm going to divide the surface. So if I click on divide surface, it will divide it, and I'm going to make it a little I think that might be okay if we're doing 9. That's not too much. And then for the adaptive components, you have to turn on the nodes on the surface. So once you've divided it and you have the divided surface selected, there's a surface representation here and a little down arrow. And you'll click on that and turn the nodes on. The adaptive points have to have those nodes on in order to host to this surface. So once we get that on, we can go back to our component and load it into the project. So I'm going to load it into this family 3. Probably would be good if I saved it as a different name, so I'll save it as a mass space frame family. Applied. Okay, so now that is in, it comes in, so let me escape out of that and I'll show you in what it looks like when you do it without saving in between. So if I go to this and I load into project, pick the project I want to load it into. It comes in, and if you're in 3D in a view that it is able to place in, it will want to place it. If you're in a view that it can't place it, it will just put it over here. So now what we want to do is remember, how we put that, the order of the points, right? So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to come in and pick this point, and then if it goes away, kind of zoom your mouse scroller and it will come back. I don't know why it does that, it's annoying. But I'm just going to pick in the same order, making sure that it's getting to those nodes and I'm getting that little circle, right? That means it's hosting. Okay, so now if I do that and we look at it, right, there's that space frame and you can see it's curving, right, with it. And so if I take it now, I can copy it or repeat it, pick that and repeat it, and it will think for a minute and it will repeat it across there. Now it's not quite meeting, right? We're getting gaps, and this comes back to how the adaptive points are set. If they're set to instance, then they'll be slightly different for each point that they pick, but we can go back to the family. So I go back to the family and I'm just going to window around everything, and I'm going to filter out the adaptive points. So I'm going to check none and go to adaptive points and click OK. And over in the property for the adaptive points, there's an orients to, and this is a kind of critical way that the adaptive points interact with whatever it is you're repeating them on. So I'm just going to go and pick, instead of instance, I'm going to pick host XYZ. All right, and so what it's going to do is it's going to look at that surface and orient itself to that surface instead of the individual points. And so I'm going to load this into project, click OK, and I'm going to overwrite the existing version and its parameter values, and we'll see if that works. And it should plunk right into place. Okay, it looks like I might have missed a pick point because these guys are not. See how they're not hosting on there? They're kind of clicking off of it. So I'm going to go back and replace it. So I'm going to delete this, and then once you have it in, it'll be in the generic model over here, and you can expand down to the type. This is the family, this is the type, and I'm going to click on that and drag it in, right, and do it again and make sure that I pick that last point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. Right, and make sure I get that 9th point. I think I probably missed it last time. And then if I repeat it, it should be just fine, right? So now we have that space frame. Now one thing that I will point out is because we have the whole piece, this is copying itself right to there. So we have 2 tubes here, right? So it's overlapping itself on 2 of those tubes. So we'll talk about sort of how to make it more efficient and when we come back.